Yes, so we're getting some pretty good turnout already. By 9 o'clock, between 5 and 11% of people had voted across the districts. We've got an average of 6.5% across the country by 9 o'clock. We're seeing a steady stream here in Beirut, but in some of the really hotly contested districts, like Baalbek Hermel in the Bekaa Valley, we've seen huge crowds of people queuing since about 5 a.m. Now, that's the voters, but the candidates are also turning out to vote. President Michel Aoun today said it's imperative that the Lebanese come forward and exercise their democratic right to vote so they can hold their legislators to account. But for the candidates themselves who are running in this election, there's supposed to be a moratorium on them speaking about politics from Friday night until the end of tomorrow. But some of them have been speaking out. We've had several Hezbollah MPs as they cast their votes, saying that this election with the new reform law is going to show the difference between reform and corruption. But of course, we know that this law is actually going to help them get some more seats. On the other hand, Prime Minister Saad Hariri, who looks like he's going to lose quite a lot of seats, when he cast his vote today, he spoke up and said, people must come and vote and everyone has their right to give an opinion. Now, that matches what his party was saying when they finally accepted the new reform law with its preferential vote system, where he said, we'll agree even though this is going to do badly for us in the elections, but everyone's allowed to give their opinion. So some political posturing as the candidates come forward to vote today.
Okay, it looks quite busy where you are, as you've been saying. It looks like a hive of activity. And, Lebanese politics is complicated business, isn't it? But it's even more complicated this time around because there's a new voting system in place, a complex system. Do you think people are getting their heads around it, Leila?
It is a bit of a complex system. So now, this time round, there have always been electoral lists and people have to run within electoral lists. But this time around, you can also select your preferred candidate from that list. And people here, some of them seem to understand it, some not so much. There have been national campaigns trying to explain it. And here inside the polling booths, the electoral workers are explaining to people as they come through exactly how to do it. There are also posters to take them through. But it's not just the fact of the preferential votes. The entire practical system has changed. 9 years ago, with the last election, people could bring their own voting ballot papers in and tick them themselves. This time there are official papers. They've got barcodes which match the lists, the electoral rolls, to be absolutely sure that each person only gets one vote. There are also no longer curtains on the voting booths, so that while the electoral workers can't see the vote that's being cast, they can see that only one paper goes in the envelope. Every voter then has their thumb marked with ink so that lasts 24 hours, so that they cannot vote again. And so all these new systems seem to be quite easy for the young voters here to understand, but a lot harder for the older voters, and a lot of them are having to bring a nominated representative, a child, to explain to them how this new voting system works.